Well, firstly, thank you all so much for tuning in to listen to this half an hour diatribe on LinkedIn. If you don't know me, which is more than likely, my name is Andrew Elias. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Chatsworth Schools Group. We are a for-profit group of independent schools in the UK. We own 10 schools here. We own 5 standalone nurseries, and then we have a joint venture for an international school called Beach Hall School Riyadh, which we launched in August of last year. So we're quite a wide-ranging group. We've got lots of different settings, and I do a lot of work on our corporate brand, but also support all of the schools within our group on their own individual brands too. So today, Elias has asked me to talk a bit about my sort of take on LinkedIn and what we've done as a group. So really, this is looking at that bigger brand piece. I appreciate lots of you guys will be from standalone schools, but hopefully you can take some of what we talk about today away, and I'm more than happy to follow up and answer anything offline or via LinkedIn afterwards. But yeah, so it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and Alicia does know me, and she knows that I'm fairly pragmatic in everything I do. So I would be lying if I said that I'd done much on this before yesterday. So I think it makes sense as an order, but yeah, we'll have a go and see how it goes. Before I go any further, personally, for me, LinkedIn has changed my career, my work life, and in many ways has been a really the making of my career. I got my job at Chatsworth Schools through LinkedIn. I met Alicia through LinkedIn, and I've met a network of people around the world. I think Anne Dickinson is on the call today, based in Brunei. And so I can personally vouch for the personal growth benefits professionally from the platform. And there's no question at all that I wouldn't be sat here talking to you if I hadn't have been sort of a LinkedIn advocate and made the most of the platform personally. Why can we talk as a group a bit about LinkedIn and how we've been successful? Just some headline stats here, really. So Chatsworth Schools had a bit of a LinkedIn profile before I joined last January, but we've had a nice steady growth on the platform from a corporate perspective, from the company page. So we're up to, this was yesterday, just under 1,900 followers. Still isn't great, but it's pretty steady progress. And then the last year, from a company page perspective, we had just over 122,000 views of the posts that we posted. Personally, again, yesterday, I've got 22,166 followers on LinkedIn, and my impressions in the last year are just over 1.7 million. So it's a really interesting thing when we go forward with the conversation, the sort of the balance between what we're trying to achieve from LinkedIn as a business, and what's the best channel to use. Is it my personal channel, or is it the company channel, or is it a mixture of both? And I think every school, every business will have a different take on that based on what they want to achieve. But I'm not trying to show off with these numbers, but I think it's really interesting to think about how does a business get the most impact out of LinkedIn, and through which channel? Is it through the company channel or through the personal channel? I think that's quite a big difference to some of those B2C channels like Instagram and Twitter, where really schools are going to focus on their own school pages rather than individual educator accounts. So that's just a bit of background. When I say why bother, I think as a school marketer, your key channels are going to be more around those consumer channels. So your Instagrams, your Facebooks, your Twitters, you have your paid for campaigns on that on a daily basis. Really, the key thing for a school marketer is to get your story out into the community, and to try and generate leads. So I would always say, as a school marketer, those are your key channels. Ensure you're engaging parents, ensure you're where your customers are. But if you do have time to think about how to do LinkedIn properly, I think there are some real benefits for a school, but in quite a different way to those other channels. For me, from a LinkedIn perspective, it's a fantastic opportunity to increase awareness about your brand, a way to inform and engage other schools or interested parties in what you're doing, because it's a longer format. You get a lot more characters, a lot more word limits. You can use different formats on the platform. So I think there's an opportunity to tell a bit more of the story. Personally, and as a school, to build a network, it's there are a lot of educators, a lot of schools on LinkedIn. So for me, it's a brilliant way to build a network, either individually or as a school. Brand building, I'll talk a lot more about that later, but I think for me, that's the key thing with LinkedIn. I don't think it's always a massive lead generator for a school from a parent perspective or a new business perspective. But I think it's a great way to have a real constant presence in the market and to get that in front of people that may well be interested in what you're doing. And it's always slightly contentious, is because I know people think LinkedIn is becoming a bit like Facebook. And for me, I don't really think that's a bad thing, because I think people are really interested in what people are doing, and people want to buy into a story. So I think a big part of that is entertainment, is being who you are, and ensuring that your brand identity comes across. Everybody, every organization will have a different brand presence. They want to do things differently. And certainly for Chatsworth, being entertaining on social media is part of what we do, and we enjoy doing so. I think there are 6 key school benefits for being on LinkedIn, in my experience. 1 is that brand building and development piece. 2 is staff recruitment. We now recruit heavily on LinkedIn, both for senior positions across the group, across the world, but also at a local level too. So we'll publicize major vacancies, key appointments through our group channels. But each of our schools individually is now doing more and more staff recruitment on LinkedIn, which has been very effective and cost effective too. I'm still mildly skeptical about how much lead generation you can actually do with parents on LinkedIn. Honestly, I know Alicia slightly disagrees with that, but obviously you could do targeted lead generation on the platform. Alumni is a really interesting thing, because our schools honestly don't have the biggest alumni networks, but I was looking on some of the pages of some of the bigger schools last night, and if you look at a school like Wickham Abbey, on LinkedIn, they've got 1,874 alumni members attached to their page. And if you are an alumni, it's a really easy way to find other alumni. And obviously, lots of schools, fundraising. It's a key way to keep your audience connected. And it's a really big opportunity. And again, it's free. So I think that's a nice way, sort of bigger, more established schools could leverage the platform. When we think about international schools, particularly, it's how do we reach corporates? How do we engage with big businesses that may have 10, 20, 30 expat families moving into a new country? And how do we engage with them to let them know about our school, and to try and put together corporate packages and corporate solutions too? We all schools need resources to function, and I think LinkedIn is a really good way to find out about different businesses, different services, websites, school marketing. There's some great school marketers in the school, Elias, Simon Hepburn, and the likes. So there's lots of great services, and you can find out a lot more about them by following different people on LinkedIn without having to engage with them. Just see what they do. And if you like them, then I'm sure they'd happily get in touch with you or message them, those sorts of things. So I think for me, those are the 6 sort of corporate benefits of being on LinkedIn. And then personally, building a personal network. So, let's be honest, most of us aren't going to be in the same job for all of our lives. Most of us want to progress. Most of us are interested in talking to like-minded professionals, and it's a brilliant platform for that. To learn, knowledge sharing, on a daily basis. Channels like the ISC, they're sharing information about the sector, which is all power to all of our elbows. And as I say, frankly, people are looking for new jobs. We leverage the platform to recruit, and individually, people will be looking at potential future job opportunities on it. So I think both professionally and in the future, personally, there are massive benefits and opportunities to being on LinkedIn. I sort of touched on it at the top, but it's that question around, where should I be posting content from? Should I focus on posting for my school page, or should I use my personal profile? And I think a lot of that will will be down to the comms team at school and with the head of the SLT to establish what you want to achieve from the platform. You know, do you want to build a company page which is polished, which is very on message, which is building that brand in the market? Or do you want to just get more people interested in your school, to leverage personal accounts to increase traction quicker and to bring a bit more personality into it? So I think you have to be clear on that before you sort of go into a scattergun approach. Individually, you know, some people will be far more comfortable of being a face of a brand than other people. To the same degree, some schools will be happy with their employees being the face of their brands than others. You know, there is a trust piece there. There is are they doing it for me, or are they doing it for them, or are they doing it for the school? There's quite a tight road to be walked in LinkedIn, particularly rather than other social channels, as to whether the employee is doing it for their own benefit or for the school's benefit. And it is a fine line, I think. Frankly, building a company page and a company following, if you just focus on your school account, is going to take more time, and you're going to get less traction to start with, and you're probably preaching to the converted a lot of the time. Whereas with personal accounts, I think that ability to reach people quicker is definitely there. As I say, I think there'll always be that little conflict, as I alluded to at the end, as to whether, if somebody really is going all out on their personal account, although they're talking about their school or their business, you know, where does the tipping point come whereby they're doing it more for their own benefit than the school? Certainly, it's something I've come across before, and I've always been able to explain the benefits to the people I've worked for how I do what I do. But I'm sure that question will come up in many classrooms and offices around the country. Just an easy example here. Tom Richardson comes up in every conversation when it's about personal branding and how you leverage a personal account to generate interest in your school. Or you've got someone like a Wellington College, whereby it's very much a company page focused, and they have a far tighter sort of remit and vision for how they want their brand to be portrayed. So it's just a really easy example. So you've got three sorts of LinkedIners in my eyes as a person. You're either a thought leader, so you're looking to share information and build your own profile as somebody that's really shaping a conversation within a particular part of the industry. A thought sharer, which probably I'm more like. I would never profess to know very much about very much, but I'm always keen to share things that I think will interest my audience. And I think by doing so, it keeps people interested in what you're doing and what you want people to know about. Because if I just bang on about Chatsworth all the time, people lose interest. So I think it's important to mix up content, to share other things that might be relevant to your audience, and also to let them know why you're sharing it. Because if you just randomly repost things, you're not adding anything to what's already out there. So I think even if you're just sharing other people's thoughts, you need to explain to your audience why you're doing it. And there's lots of people that I certainly am aware of myself that your scrollers and your likers, really. So people that aren't really adding anything into the platform, but they're always aware of it. You know, they're sort of stalking the people they're interested in. There's obviously a place for these people, but I would always encourage people to get more into LinkedIn, because it's definitely a platform whereby if you get involved in conversations, if you comment, if you try and add your own content, your own voice into the platform, I think you're going to get more out of it, really. And certainly that's been my experience. I'm going to whiz through these because I'm conscious of time. But before you start posting on LinkedIn, or maybe you're doing it already, I think there's a few questions that you really need to ask and have a focus for in your mind, whether you're doing it for yourself or for your school, as to how you're going to go about it. Because you do need a consistency of voice, I think, and certainly approach. Are you going to focus on leadership? Are you going to focus on key adults in your organization? Or are you going to be very children-led? I think there's quite a distinct approach, really. Some accounts really look to position themselves as thought leaders and focus on the educators, the senior team of the school, and that leadership piece and that quality piece. Whereas other schools look to focus far more on sort of the more pragmatic content from their children. So I think that's probably one of the first questions. You know, identify the things that you really want people to know about your school. You know, Have you had a great inspection report? Have you got a unique curriculum that you think is a cornerstone of what you do? Have you won a Buddies to Letters award or whatever else? Be clear on the things that you want people to know about you. And essentially, like all social media, LinkedIn is just the start of a journey for a conversation. It's not the end point. It's getting people interested enough to do what you want them to do next. So I think it's always important when you're putting posts out onto LinkedIn or any social media platform to be really clear on what you want those people to do next. Because as I always say, whilst I've got a big network on LinkedIn, if someone turns LinkedIn off tomorrow and I haven't done any more with all of that network, those contacts, the opportunities, then the whole thing falls apart really. So I think you always need to be very conscious that you have to have a plan as to what you want your audience to do next. So you need to move the conversation off LinkedIn, frankly, and take your audience where you want them to go afterwards. Just 3 quick bits of what content you might be posting on LinkedIn or any social channel. You've got your opportunistic content, which is the spontaneous stuff coming out of your school every day. You've got the bigger newsworthy bits, so maybe exam results, inspection reports, sports achievements, those sorts of things. And then you've got your strategic content, so your set piece graphics, your scheduled content, which you're going out, which is really sort of part of that strategic piece whereby you're getting across your key messages on a relentless basis to ensure that what you want to come across to your audience is populated in your newsfeed on a regular basis. And obviously, if you're using a corporate account, I think all of you in the room online will be familiar with the importance of having a clear brand guideline and approved messaging in your posts. So if you're working with a team of people, it's just important that they all understand what they need to be using as a brand asset and the messages that they need to use as well, just to keep that clarity. I'm now sort of going to focus more on how I do what I do on LinkedIn, and then talk about sort of our journey with Chatsworth in the last year, and how we've gone about what we do. We have to be honest in this world that whether we like it or not, we're all selling something. So I think with a platform like LinkedIn, we are either looking to build our own personal networks and sell ourselves to a point in our personal brands, to interest the market, shall we say, in what we do and why we do it. And obviously, as a school, we're looking to attract interested stakeholders, be them employees, be them parents, be them children, be them alumni, those sorts of things. So I think we have to go in on the honest basis that we are all selling something in this world, and that is how I sort of approach, and it's always in the back of my mind when I'm on LinkedIn. But ultimately, we're all selling something. But in the end, people buy people. I am a firm believer in relationships being the key to all success in every industry. And there's a nice quote which I churn out most occasions, which is that sort of difference between marketing, which is like asking somebody out on a date, but then actually your brand is what people ultimately buy, and that's the reason they say yes. So for me, LinkedIn is a fantastic opportunity to tell that story, to build that brand, so that once people are interested in what you do, they then check out your LinkedIn profile or they check out your company account. That's what gives them the confidence, a bit more social proof, to actually get more engaged with you, to have that conversation, to think about buying whatever you're buying. Sorry, buying whatever you're selling. But yeah, for me, LinkedIn is just an extension of physical personal relationships and an ability to create new ones. So that is, hopefully, anybody that's met me after they've connected with me on LinkedIn, people would say the same, that there is a direct connection between what I post and the person I am in real life, shall we say. And I hope Alicia would echo that. And this is just a bit of an example of some of the personal content I put on LinkedIn between my more corporate stuff, which has really helped me within the space to sort of build a bit of a reputation, and for people to get to know me a bit more before they actually get to know me. And for me, the testament to success in this area when you're trying to build that personal brand in the market is that when people finally get on a call with you or they meet you at a conference, they say, well, it's amazing. We've not met before, but it feels like I know you. And I'll have conversations all the time whereby people will ask me about my lawn. I post a lot about my lawn or my shed, or the fact we had moles in the garden last summer, or my beautiful children, my choice of footwear, all these sorts of things, the cow behind me, all these different things. But they're just little touch points, really. They're just icebreakers, and they just start to add more sort of context, more layers to who you are as a person. So once you start to have those professional conversations, you're a bit further down the track. It's not quite as cold as it would be if you were just meeting somebody and talking to them for the first time. So everybody's going to do it differently. I'm really comfortable posting about myself, using the platform a bit in a Facebook way some days, although I'm not on Facebook, which is ironic. But I do think there's a place for that. And I think it really has helped me and Chatsworth to strengthen our brand as a people-focused business. I checked with Alicia if I could say this before I go to say it, but LinkedIn is a channel full of bullshit, essentially. There are a lot of people who on a daily basis are delighted to announce things. They're privileged to work with things. They dared to dream. They reimagined. Well-being's at the heart of everything they do. Servant leadership, AI, future education. We're all humble. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And frankly, if you check my post, I'm sure I've said most of these things at least once in the last month. So there is a real danger of this just becoming an echo chamber. If you are delighted to announce everything and everything is amazing, people just switch off to a certain degree. So we have to be very conscious on the platform that if we are saying something is amazing, or we are delighted to announce something, that we actually really are able to articulate why we've done that. So as we say at Chatsworth, it's all well and good talking the talk, but to do so, you really must have walked the walk in what you do. So if you use all those platitudes, you use all that language that we're so familiar with, and we sort of glaze over when we're reading it, you really got to be able to back up, what you're saying and why you're saying it, and why you're risking using all of those well-trodden phrases. So we're really lucky as a business that we can certainly evidence the fact that we walk the walk. Only this week we had the Department for Business and Trade host a very successful trade mission to our school in Riyadh. Last year we won the Education Investor Award for the Education Provider of the Year for the second year in a row. We've continued to acquire schools. We continue to be nominated for awards. But these are just examples of the things that if you're going to go out there and you're going to a LinkedIn post, as it were, that you really have got to have substance behind it, because very quickly people will be able to do a bit of homework, check out your stuff. And if there's nothing under the hood, then frankly, people will lose interest very quickly, in my experience. So that's a very whistle-stop tour, and I'm conscious I'm talking quickly, so forgive me. Alicia's then asked me just to talk a bit about how we've built the Chatsworth Schools brand on LinkedIn and the community. And I'm going to try just for the rest of this presentation to talk about that. I sort of crystallized it last night. It's been really interesting actually to think about the journey we have been on LinkedIn in the last year, and I've tried to almost put together a timeline of that. So I'm very lucky that I work for Anita Gleave, who is the CEO and founder of Chatsworth Schools, and internationally now Blenheim Schools. We met on LinkedIn, we got on famously well, and before I knew it, I was working for her and for Chatsworth Schools. I'm a B2B marketer by trade. I'm from the corporate side of the sector. And so brand building for me is something that I love doing, and building those communities. It's really key to everything I do. So in Chatsworth Schools, I was given a brand to build that's values based, heavily dependent on personalities. Initially Elite's, but as time has gone on, that's probably changed a bit more, and we've got more voices within the company. We have an inclusive and non-selective philosophy about education, which is quite different to a lot of independent schools where exam results and assessment are key. So We have a point of difference. We're a feminist organisation. We're led by brilliant women. There are some male bag carriers around, but most of the people that do all the hard work are women. So again, that's fantastic, and we're very proud of that. We are we are the most non-corporate you could possibly imagine, which again we take great delight in when we're talking about what we do, and we're deliberately different in that regard. I need to have a passion to have children at the heart of everything we do is relentless. It's our key focus, and as soon as we move away from that in anything we do, we are quickly put back onto that track. So that clarity, the children at the heart, is really helpful. And frankly, on a fairly regular basis, I mess things up and I don't get everything right, and I come up with ideas that don't work, and we agree that they don't work, and we bin them and we do something else. But we have that creative relationship whereby I'm encouraged to try things. We are encouraged to try things in the group. And if they don't go well, we bin them off and we do something else. But I think you need that positive, encouraging culture to be able to do that, be honest when things aren't working, and to go forward. So that's really helped us too. And we are innovative. We in quite a stale, staid market, which we've always done things this way, is quite a common approach. We are, as a brand, we want to do things differently. We want to innovate. We want to push the boundaries. So to be honest, I've got quite a nice set of cards to play with when I'm looking to try and develop the brand that we have on LinkedIn. I'm just going to, the next few slides, just walk through some of the content and talk about the psychology behind it and why we do what we do. But I think it's really important to say, we see ourselves as a disruptor in the sector. So almost everything we do is deliberately designed to be different or contrary to a lot of the stuff you'll see in the market. So, for argument's sake, Anita's dog Letty has become sort of a key part of our marketing in the last couple of months. She's been promoted to Chief Marketing Officer, and it's just a bit of fun, really, but it's just a nice example of the way that, we go totally left field and do something that just gets people interested, makes people smile, and then people start to engage with other things we do. Probably the sort of the motto in the middle there: if everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. And frankly, whilst we use that on social quite a lot, it's absolutely the truth of the organisation. We are not always strategic in what we do from a social perspective. We push really hard, we try and go really fast, and we try and do things differently. So I think that's a big thing. Anita plays a key part in our branding. She was out in Riyadh opening the school earlier in the year. And obviously, Chatsworth Schools took an 8-foot womble to the Independent School Show last year in a nod to our Hall School Wimbledon, and the fact that Orinoco lives around the corner on Wimbledon Common. So we do try and do things really differently on our socials, including our LinkedIn. On a daily basis, we hammer home the same messages. Our core values of integrity, resilience, and passion. Our unique curriculum, the Chatsworth Schools Tapestry. Our commitment to non-selective education. Anita at the heart of everything we do. And our children at the heart of everything we do too. These are the key things. If you go through all of our posts, you will almost always see at least one of these 5 core elements linked back to them. So that's our real key starting point for everything we do, if it's through my account or through the Chatsworth account. And again, it goes back to the thing, we try and have fun. Everything we do, we try and get an angle, we try and get some joy, we try and get some engagement. So, I went down the pub with Greeners, one of my colleagues, the other day. We go to conferences together. We take wombles to conferences. We encourage children to be joyful. We encourage them to compete and to really relish each other's company. So I think for us, that's something that we really try and get across on our socials. And then again, it goes back to this combination of the blend between corporate content for your official channels and that personal content, which sort of keeps everything going forward and keeps people engaged with the key players in our organisation, really. So I had a baby well, my wife had a baby 3 weeks ago, so people have been really supportive of the post that I put out about our daughter Beatrix. We had a fantastic Christmas party last year where Anita hired 2 camels for the afternoon. And again, going back to my lawn, these sorts of things, just we dot them into our feeds just to keep people interested, just to make people look back, and then they do engage with our other content. In the last year, we've also gone global. We launched Schools, our international schools division. We have a separate LinkedIn page for this, but essentially using our LinkedIn account was a key part of the launch strategy there. We recruited all of our senior leadership team directly through LinkedIn when we couldn't even name the school officially for governmental reasons in Riyadh. And a major part in the launch of that school, and indeed getting the opportunity to launch that school with the investor that we found, came through LinkedIn. So it really has given us that global reach. And we're now getting to the point, which is awesome as a marketer to see, whereby we are getting employee advocacy. So not just me banging on about what we do, but lots of our staff from different schools are now starting to share what we do, share what they're doing for us, and to tie everything together, really. So people like Charlotte Davis, our brilliant registrar from Benedict House Prep School, she's becoming very active on LinkedIn and really talking about the Chatsworth School story and how the investment we've done there is really building that school. Clemmy Stewart, our Director of Learning and Teaching, spends a lot of time in Riyadh, and she sort of tells lots of stories about the educational part of the group. Charles Stafford Northcote from Patterson is doing brilliant stuff up there. And David Ward, I'm sure most of you know Mr. Ward, retiring this summer, but he's a passionate LinkedIner and does a great job of telling Riverston's own story as well, and how they're supporting autistic children, particularly there. So that's great. And obviously me doing my stuff. And then I'm conscious we're nearly at the end, but where we've got to now is we've developed the idea, the concept of Team Chatsworth, which came out last month. And really, it's not even about employees, really. It's about the community we've built on LinkedIn and in the wider educational world, where people sort of buy into what we do. They like the way we do it. They like our messaging. They like the inclusive philosophy we have. They like the fact we have fun, and we sort of really want to bring people into what we're doing and to celebrate people, whether they're our employees or not, that are really making a difference to education. And people have really sort of bought into the idea of Team Chatsworth. And in the last week, we've seen something really interesting, which is whereby we've got people not in our organisation who are being abundantly nice to us without us asking them in any way, really. So we've seen a real uptick in very positive comments about the fact they love our posts, or the fact they love our messaging, the fact they love our vision. And then we had a very nice comment from one of the trade delegation from the Department of Business and Trade last week, just saying about the energy that they feel and the fact that we're getting this advocacy from people at no cost, and we have no affiliation with these people. I think it's just a real testament to how we've taken, our brand and our vision, made it a bit more real, and people are now really buying into it, which is as a marketer is all you want, really. You want people to tell your story for you, which is what we're seeing. And then just briefly to finish, for us, the benefits have been staff recruitment. It's been fantastic. As I said, we've recruited a lot of senior figures in the last year through LinkedIn. We've saved a lot of money on recruiters and placing adverts, because it's all been for free through LinkedIn. That brand awareness piece, and new PR opportunities. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for LinkedIn. Anita now is a real key conference keynote speaker, and a lot of that comes through LinkedIn. New business opportunities. Obviously, we're in the acquisitions game in the UK and the international schools development game overseas. So we do get opportunities come in. We get to see what's going on in the market for free. We see what's going on with other schools. We learn. Our employees are starting to build their own brands on here as well, which has been great. You see more and more employee satisfaction, because when people are celebrated, they get into that and they can see that they're valued. So that's been a positive. And it's all for free. None of us have premium accounts. We don't pay for targeted stuff. We don't pay for advertising on here, apart from the man hours and the occasional bit of brain power required. this is just a free business development tool for us and a way to connect with brilliant people around the world. So yeah, it's been quite the journey. I'm sure it's nowhere near done yet, but it's that's pretty much where we get to, and I've overrun, so forgive me. And that's just a summary, really. You get out what you put in from LinkedIn. The other points you could read, but I would say my final point would be always post with a picture on LinkedIn, because engagement rates when you have a picture on your post go up, I should think, at least tenfold. So it doesn't matter how good your post is, if there's not a nice picture at the bottom, it's highly likely that people won't read it, in my experience. So that would be my final thoughts, and forgive me for overrunning.
Thank you, Andrew.